Wedding trends that you do not want to include in your 2025 wedding.
I don't want anyone to hate me, but here are 6 wedding trends that I think are going to be out of date or considered tacky or like millennial-esque by 2025.
So I thought I would give you my unsolicited wedding icks. Actually makes me want to like when I think about it. A first look, specifically the tap on the shoulder.
Gen Z's fear of being associated with millennial culture needs to be studied because what do you mean? You are comparing Basque-waist wedding dresses to mason jars.
A lot of people naturally feel like, well, I don't want to look back on that amount of money that I spent and cringe. Hey guys, it's Briar and let's chat about it. Now, as if getting married and having a wedding was not stressful enough, I mean, I don't know, but from what I've heard, a new goal and standard has been set for weddings, and that is this idea of timelessness. Or maybe even more importantly, the fear of looking back on your wedding and seeing the influence of trends and knowing what year your wedding happened because of the things that you included in your table setting, the dresses you were wearing, and maybe the biggest fear of all, looking back on your wedding and thinking it's cringe. And that is what I really want to yap about with you guys today. Yap about this crazy new standard that is being set online of chasing timelessness and the fear of trends when it comes to weddings, and just the overall pressure that there seems to be to have this aesthetically perfect day. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around and let's get into it. Now for me, the ground zero, or at least part of the ground zero, definitely seems to come from the relationship between Gen Z and millennial, and the way that Gen Zs feel about millennials and their trends, and how with social media we have the ability to look back and see just how cringy and perhaps poorly the trends we were obsessed with aged. And I mean, if I'm being honest, do I think galaxy print and moustaches are timeless classics? No, but also do I think the girlies in the 2010s wearing their galaxy leggings is any different to the obsession we had with cow print in 2020? Also no. And it's so interesting that these trends are being held to a standard of classiness or timelessness when I got stuck in a when you look back on those trends, was teenage Briar prioritizing classiness or timelessness? Definitely not. But I think especially because millennials were kind of the first generation of this serious documentation of all the trends we loved, the things we did, the way we posed in photos, and the way we dressed to go to the club was so well documented. What we are left with is an abundance of evidence to reflect back on and ultimately cringe over. But to tie this back into what we are yapping about today and the theme of weddings, I think what has come out of all this evidence is a lot of trends reacting to and cringing over the way millennials behaved in the 2010s and the trends that we succumb to. And well, first off, definitely don't take a drink every time I say trend or millennial or timeless. One trend in particular that did go pretty viral is people posting their millennial or 2010s weddings, and I feel like these trends, but in this context specifically, has really created a fear in millennials or Gen Z that are getting married in the 2020s, because they're almost seeing these videos as like a warning sign, them telling you, parting on their wisdom, like, don't do what I did, avoid the teal, don't wear the Converse. It's so Demi Lovato coded. But I did want to show you guys some of those videos so you can really get a vibe and really see how people are feeling about their millennial/2010s weddings in the age of 2025.
We are young.
Here are 10 wedding trends we did in the 2010s that were for vibes only. Before we start, nobody needs to get their feelings hurt. I've done some of these trends at my own wedding, just having fun. Okay, number 1, naked cakes. We all knew the ratio was off. We knew it, and we kept on for the vibes. Hay bales for seating. Do I need to expand? Okay, the unnecessary signage, please. I'm also going to say the wind just knocks these over. Taper candles outside. Be so for real. Come on. Creative seating charts. You cannot use this to find your seat. This is for vibes only. Quick question. Why did we think anybody could take care of a succulent? These are all dead now. Hey, don't hate me. It's going to be a very chill backyard wedding vibe. Food truck for the guests. It is for the vibe. You will probably have to wait in a very long line for your dinner. At the exact perfect angle, you can read it. Were the flower crowns disproportionately huge? Yes, they were. But it was the aesthetic. Okay, groom's cakes. These are for Pinterest only. There was no real life reason why this was necessary.
I mean, maybe this is a unique experience to me, but for a long time, the only plant I could keep alive was a free succulent I found on the side of the road. His name's Stephen. He multiplied to make himself into two Stevens, so now he's Stephen with a PH and Stephen with a V. And for a long time, that was the only indoor plant I could keep alive. This one, my friend gave to me, and I do feel bad because sometimes I forget to water it because it's in this room that I only come in to film in. A little behind the scenes for you. But honestly, yes, even though I understand the cringe, I feel like there is like a weird, silly, goofy nostalgia, and it just genuinely made me laugh to see them on their way to their wedding using the dog Snapchat filter. Like, what a time to be alive, you know? I don't know if you guys have also seen people do this trend, but with like baby photos, and like there's just so many pictures of their babies with like the Snapchat flower crown or the dog filter. And it's just like, look, we were just having fun with the social media. Snapchat filters were our personality. It was like a way that we could just show the vibes. It was very time and place. This was Coachella 2016, if you know what I mean. And so of course some of these choices have aged better than others. Like I feel like the flower crowns still look cute, and like a naked cake to me is just offensive because you're taking away the amount of icing I get to eat. But I mean, I feel like it still looks cute. But I think what a lot of people took away from these videos is that you can tell when these weddings happen. You can see, due to the choices, due to the vibes, when these weddings happened, and it was usually in like the early to mid 2010s. And I feel like especially for millennial or 2010s weddings, because I know like not everyone that got married in the 2010s is a millennial. Okay, I get it. 2010s weddings were so personality driven. They had such an energy and a personality and a vibe that it really is no wonder that Gen Z saw that and did the classic pendulum swing of like, well, we don't want that, so we're going to do the complete opposite. I feel like this is a classic move between generations. We see something the generation did before and we're like, that's cringe and embarrassing, I'm going to do the complete opposite. And it's an endless pendulum swing. It's an endless when you know everything at 18 but nothing at 22, or as my dad loves to say, isn't it amazing how much smarter I got between you being a teenager and you being an adult? So I feel like that is definitely one major factor that has created this fear. It has instilled the fear. It keeps the brides up at night over looking back on their weddings in 10 years and being like, yuck, ooh, cringe. Not that I'm calling these weddings yuck, ooh, cringe, but unfortunately, shade has been thrown online. And I feel like now is obviously a really good time for me to say, obviously, I'm not judging anyone's wedding choices or saying any of these are bad or good. I feel like at the end of the day, it was your choices and that is what made you happy. And just because it's not trendy now doesn't mean you shouldn't like it. And equally, if timelessness is something that you like for a wedding, or the classy, elegant, classic look is something that you like, that's also not a bad thing. But is it a possible standard that we're chasing? I guess time will tell in this video. But that takes us into, in a roundabout way, my next major point of ground zero for this fear. And that is the social media-ification, that's not even a word, of everything, right? Everything goes online. Whereas back in the sleigh, yes, your friends, the people who went to your wedding were judging, and the extended family that weren't invited that are looking at pictures are judging. But now we have the internet. We have everybody who has a cellular device and access to the internet to be able to judge your wedding, to be able to react to you participating in wedding trends and wedding TikToks and sharing everything about your wedding. So the pressure is high, right? The pressure is so high for your wedding to look good, because for a lot of people, it's going online, it's been shared online, and it's being shared a lot more publicly to a much larger group of people than it was before. Equally, weddings are freaking expensive. I don't know if you guys know this. You probably do. Not a news flash. Probably this is about as groundbreaking as water being wet. Weddings being so expensive these days has really sadly become a huge fact of life. And so obviously when you're spending that much money, I think a lot of people naturally feel like, well, I don't want to look back on that amount of money that I spent and cringe. Absolutely not. So there's that additional pressure of, this is a huge day. I'm marrying the love of my life. Of course, I get to share it with my friends and family. Of course, fun, slay. But also pressure, social media. Also pressure, so much money. Also pressure, I don't want to look back on this day and regret it because fingers crossed I've made a good choice and I'm marrying the correct person. So I'm only getting married once, right? We all hope that. Everybody. Sorry, I got distracted. Everybody, or most bodies, I would assume, hope that they're only going to get married once, hope that they, are marrying their forever person, and they want to do it right. At least I did one thing right. All of that pressure combined with the social mediaification, the millennial cringification, this has created what I would consider to be a perfect storm. A perfect storm for Gen Z or anyone getting married in the 2020s to be afraid and to look for solutions, right? Obviously, what has come out of this is this trend for timelessness, is this desire for having a timeless wedding. So I did want to start there and show you guys kind of the Pinterest board, the social media aspirational posts of what are we aspiring to? What is the opposite of Converse, mason jars, and teal? Timelessness. So let's have a look at what this content is telling us will age beautifully, gracefully, and you will look back on and smile.
I had a very traditional Catholic wedding, and I was told by our guests quite a few times that our wedding was timeless, and that was my number one goal when designing my wedding and planning my wedding. So if you're also trying to have a timeless wedding, here are a few things that I think are going to stand the test of time and just be classic for forever. Up first, we have a lace dress. I think lace is so timeless. Anything that's really traditional is going to stand the test of time. I had a lace dress, loved it so much. My absolute dream wedding dress. I just think in 50 years, I'm going to look back and love this dress so much. Number two would be simple, understated jewelry. Jewelry trends cycle through really fast, but I think simple pearls or just an understated diamond are going to be beautiful and in for forever. For your morning getting ready outfit, of course, wear whatever you feel comfortable in, but if you can thrift something or find something vintage, it is going to be so classic, elegant, timeless. It's not going to be trendy because no one else has it. It's just going to be unique to you and your style. I wore my mom's vintage slip dress and robe. Again, I'm going to look back in 50 years and it's going to be timeless. Lastly, if you can, choose a historic wedding venue. We got married at a really old cathedral and it was just so beautiful. It couldn't have been more timeless. So many people loved it, complimented us on the venue, even though it's a Catholic church. I mean, they're all beautiful, but if you can, just choose a venue that has history, that has character. It's just going to be more timeless than something that was built really recently and really modernly. And there's just something charming and really timeless about it.
And I will say all of the photos that she put in looked beautiful. Like she really did look really pretty, and I'm sure because this was her goal and those are the things that she aesthetically likes. Do you want to say hello to the people? You have to say something. That's really interesting. But what I was going to say is, what if those are not the things that you personally like, right? I feel like this works for her because she obviously likes pearls and likes lace and likes the kind of traditional and simple thing. But what if you like other things? What if you don't want to wear lace? What if you want to have like a sparkly earring? And I think that's where the pressure can come in to feel like you should pick things that you think will be timeless over what you actually like. But anyway, let's watch a couple more examples. Overall, that content in of itself is not mean-spirited or being like, don't be chuggy, don't be trendy. No, it's kind of just an extension of Pinterest, giving you ideas and feeding into that type of aesthetic. And I feel like if that was where we could stop, if there were no if and or buts after this, that would be fine. We wouldn't be having a video. We wouldn't be having a yap right now. However, I feel like what this then escalated into was this type of content which is like, avoid this. This is advice so that you don't cringe. Like we cringe at 2010s, or we cringe at this style, or we cringe at this thing because it's not trendy anymore. And I can't help but wonder, if you would allow me to be Carrie Bradshaw for a second, if it's just because like the 2010s is still too close in time, whereas like we have a nostalgia and like a coolness and a vintageness to the 90s and the early 2000s. Something to ponder, something to wonder. So even though it's hard to say if all 2010s trends, say that 3 times fast, will get that type of fondness when more time has passed, it is something to, as I like to say, Carrie Bradshaw wonder. Anyone remember when she literally wore a bird in her hair for her wedding, but Big stood her up? We don't even have time for it. But that led us into this next type of content, which is like the ins and outs, the do's, the don'ts, the yays, the nays. This is when the energy turns from, okay, these are cute ideas, this is what I did, this is what I like, to, if you do this, ew, yuck, yuck, tomato, tomato, boo. So let's watch some examples, shall we?
Wedding trends I think we're going to see a lot less of in 2025. If you're new here, my name's Lauren. I'm a 2025 bride-to-be, multiple-time bridesmaid, and co-founder of Dolce Leone Swim, a bridal swimwear company. The all-white decor is out. Monochrome look is stunning. It's classy, it's timeless. But for 2025, I truly see brides taking a little bit more of a risk, being a bit more bold with their colors, and just a little bit more unique than the timeless all-white decor. As hilarious as this cake topper is, 2025 brides are all about minimalism. No more cake toppers, no more cakes with 5 tiers. 2025 brides are going to be more simple and classy with a single layer cake. Also, the cake cutting is definitely going to become more of a moment for just the bride and the groom rather than for everyone at the wedding. We're also going to see brides opting for much smaller bridal parties than what you've seen. We've all seen the bridal parties which have like 20 plus people in them. In 2025, you're going to see so many brides with just a couple people in their bridal party, whether that's just close friends and family. Wedding trends that you do not want to include in your 2025 wedding, especially if you're asking your bridesmaids to pay for their own dress. Matching bridesmaids dresses is just honestly kind of annoying. Everybody has a different body type. There's no single style that everyone's going to feel good and feel confident in. And if your bridesmaids are paying, let them choose something that they'll actually wear again. Picking a color scheme and doing mix and match dresses honestly photographs so well. The reason to have a wedding is to have all of your loved ones together and have them mix and mingle and get to know each other. Let's skip the bride side and groom side of the ceremony and just let people sit where they want to sit. Brides, please tell me we're not still doing the garter toss. The idea of your family seeing your husband go under your dress to grab your garter is just like, I don't know, it's mortifying. Like, we need to stop doing this, please. It's so outdated and really uncomfortable for guests. Brides, we have beat this hairstyle into the ground. It's obviously a beautiful hairstyle. That's why it's been so popular for the last 2 years, but it is so overdone. Amy Jackson's hair just screamed luxury, it screamed glamour, and I surely think that's what 2025 brides are going for, which is why I think this is going to be the most requested hairstyle for 2025 brides. The bouquet toss has had its moment, but it's time to move on. It's such an outdated tradition, and it can make single women feel awkward, so let's just leave this in the past.
As an unmarried person, maybe I'm just not in the know, but what the frick frack is a garter toss? Anyway, I do want to obviously make sure the tone is correct in this video. I mean, I feel like I've been pretty silly and or goofy, but obviously I'm not trying to add like too much seriousness to the whole situation. We're just yapping about what we are observing and kind of the language and the pressures and the trends that are happening. And I feel like what is really interesting about her videos were the words that she was using, and they were classy, they were timeless, minimal. In these videos, you walk such a fine line of giving new ideas, giving new perspectives, to being like, oh, you had your hair out on your wedding day with the fronts pinned down? Get a new idea, flop. She clearly didn't say it like that, but you know what I mean? I mean, look, I think that the lady, she married the guy from, what's his name? I don't know. He's from Gossip Girl. Like, not everyone, can pull off having a slick back hairdo. Some of us have very frizzy hair. Maybe that issue I have has come up a few times. And B, maybe some of us don't have the roundest shaped head. And so a slick back really accentuates that. But I'm just looking out for those people. I'm not talking about myself. What would have been more fun was to show like other types of hair down. What is that called? Or my brain can only think of as updo, and it's not a down do. But you know what I mean? Like, instead of being like, oh, you want to wear your hair out and like sleek? No, you have to tie it up. Instead of having a completely different option, I feel like I would have shown other options of your hair being down and like new fun ways to do it. But what do I know? I've been a bridesmaid once. That was quite fun. But anyway, let's watch some more content to see how we can remain classy and timeless.
Wedding trends, I think, are going to be overdone in 2025 and 2026. I know this is going to be kind of controversial, and I don't mean like if you're doing this for your wedding, like it's going to be overdone and like it's not cute at the end of the day. You're getting married, and if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. These are just the things that I have seen so many celebrities and so many influencers do over and over and over again. They might not be coming off as like unique and cool anymore, and they might just come off trendy. Let's just get into it. This next year is going to be the death of the arch. I have seen less and less people use an arch at the altar and honestly use nothing, and I think it's so beautiful and it has more focus on the couple. So no more arches. This one physically pains me to say this because I love these flowers. But as a 2026 bride, I have to also ask myself this question: are these flowers just really trendy right now, or do I actually like them for my wedding? Is anthuriums and calla lilies. I have seen so many calla lily bouquets and just people holding one calla lily. I've seen so many people with anthurium flower arrangements and everything. It's all so beautiful, but is that just highly trendy right now? I think it might be, and I think by the time 2026 rolls around for me, like it will have been done so much that it's just not gonna feel cool and unique. Parasols. I have seen so many cool parasol photos, people with parasols at their weddings, and I think it's beautiful. However, every wedding I have seen for inspiration this year had parasols, so now it leads me to ask the same question. Is it highly trendy right now, and will it be overdone by my wedding? And the answer is coming out yes. So I think if you guys have 2025 and 2026 weddings, it may just be completely overdone by then. Chandeliers outside. This I think is just so overdone, and people are just trying to copy one wedding in particular and like emulate someone else's wedding. Heavy drapery and bows everywhere and like heavy fabrics everywhere. It's so beautiful. The bow trend came and went. We're gonna all be so over bows and like heavy drapery. This one may be controversial, but I don't know how I feel about a champagne tower. I feel like it is so extremely overdone, but it's honestly been overdone for years. Maybe it's kind of classic.
And well, considering the fact that the comments are turned off, I'm sure you can imagine that this video maybe didn't land in the way that she hoped it would. And I feel like it's just kind of sad that people wouldn't pick something that they like because they're worried that it's something other people have done. Like, I think if the internet has showed us anything, I've never had a unique experience. Obviously that's hyperbole, but I think because there is that fear, right, of those flowers or the drapery or I don't even know the word she was using for the paper umbrellas. Cocktail umbrellas? Dunno. Because everyone's afraid that all of those things are going to be the Converse, the mason jars, the barn wedding, the squiggly handwriting. There is such a fear that it's going to look like that in 10 years that people no longer just pick the things that they like. Whereas if you got to give people in the 2010/millennials something, it's that they really just went with what they like. They really just picked the thing that they thought was fun and they did it. And I feel like they probably had a really good time. But anyway, let's watch the next one.
2023 wedding trends that I think we're going to see a lot less of in 2024. I hate to be the first to say it, but champagne towers are getting a little bit overdone. I've seen really cool, innovative takes on it though, like this martini tower, espresso martini tower, which is just so fun. You need to cut something from your wedding budget, it should be the fancy dessert table. I had one at my wedding and literally not a single person touched it. Fancy, elaborate wedding invitations, I honestly think are going to go. It makes literally no difference to your guests if you send an electronic invitation and it's so much cheaper. However, this dog up here is super cute, so no shade to this person. Lastly, and for the love of God, get rid of the hangover brunch. Celebrating all weekend is so much fun, but when the wedding is over, just let people go home. Literally nothing to say about neon signage other than it gives me the ick. Disagree with me all you want, but this is my opinion. Marquee letters are also very 2021, 2022. We already know your initials. You don't really need it in big, bold letters. If you want additional signage that is not really necessary, enter the welcome sign. Done really simply, really elegant, really just understated. They're quite pretty. However, if you need to cut anything from the signage portion of your budget, let it be the welcome sign. We already know whose wedding we're going to. Wedding favors. Let me rephrase that. Wedding favors that I cannot eat or drink. But if you can eat or drink it, bonus points if you can consume it on the way home. It's a win.
Married next summer, so I thought I would give you my unsolicited wedding icks. completely unsolicited. Mind you, if you've done any of these, I'm sure it was absolutely stunning, breathtaking, everything that you've dreamed of. This is just my personal opinion. So if you don't have the same opinion, back off, right? Neutral weddings, like beige weddings, like when all of your florals are like really, really simple. Like there's nothing stand out about them. However, they're all just beige or white. Like, I don't get me wrong, love an all white wedding. I think an all white wedding can be stunning, but when it just looks really beige is the word, like vanilla, I don't love it. It might look nice for you. I don't like it for me. 3, and this one really, really gets me every time. Although I have seen it done once by a very, very sweet couple, and it was more of like a laughy, jokey moment. And in that sense, I didn't mind it. However, a choreographed first dance when neither of you are dancers, the whole situation upsets me so much. Like, unless one of you is a professional dancer, what is the need to have a professional choreographed dance? Like, why can't you just like love each other? This one's really going to piss some people off, but single flower bouquets for your bridesmaids or for the bride. Okay, I get that it was a moment. It had its moment back in, I don't know, 2023, beginning of 2024. It did have its moment and it was really a slay. However, I feel that people are just doing it because they think that it's what they should be doing. Like, I feel like if you're doing something because it was a trend last year, you probably shouldn't be doing it unless it's something that you personally love and you've always loved a single flower bouquet and you've thought about it on your own accord. Just don't copy it. I just think it's really naff. I just think visually it just looks naff. Okay, I'm sorry. It does. Actually makes me want to like when I think about it. A first look, specifically the tap on the shoulder. The tap on the shoulder. I don't even think I need to go into an explanation about this one. It's just so vulgar. Like, I absolutely despise it. I don't know what it is about that moment, but it just feels so... Now, I could be getting this really wrong, and like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to guess that there are going to be brides in my comments being like, actually, this was like my favourite moment of my wedding day. I'm sure it was. It's not for me. It's not for me. Let my husband sob his eyes out at the end of the aisle to me. That is the first time that I want to see my husband. What a moment. What a moment. I already know that this one's going to piss both mine and Scott's families off, but posed family portraits. Need I say more? I was at my best friend in the entire world's wedding the other week, and she did all of these posed family portraits. And don't get me wrong, looking back on the pictures, I'm like, wow, that is such a beautiful memory to look back on, that you have like all of these pictures with all of the most important people in your life. However, the bride and groom literally have to stand or sit in the same place for like a good hour whilst people are just ushered. And it's like, I want to be getting drunk at that point. I want to be shaking my ass on the dance floor. I don't want to be taking pictures with your crusty uncle.
I don't want anyone to hate me, but here are 6 wedding trends that I think are going to be out of date or considered tacky or like millennial-esque by 2025. Number 1 has to be the floral walls. I am not saying that these are ugly. I am not saying that these are tacky, but I do think that they are so overdone and that they will be considered tacky by next year. And if you like them, that's great. But also, what do you do with them afterwards? Number 2 has to be the rustic half-frosted wedding cake. Now, I do think that they can be cute, especially if you're doing like a little barn venue moment, but I think that they will be considered tacky and outdated, and we will go back to maximalist 40-tier wedding cakes with the toppers on top. This one pains me because I want one of these neon signs with me and my fiance's first names or last names so bad to hang up behind the bridal table at the reception venue, but I just can't justify the money, and I think that they will be considered very tacky. They'll be just like fairy lights were like 10 years ago. Also, aside from decor, like, everyone knows your last name, so why are you hanging it up? Unfortunately, I do have to say the mirror sign too. The mirror welcome sign, the mirror bar sign, the mirror sit wherever you'd like sign. This is another one that I want really bad, but I think by the time next year rolls around, it will be so overdone. People will be like, oh, this is the new chalkboard. This is the new chalkboard that everyone had with their fairy light, mason jar, teal, and pink weddings in 2013. These damn arches. These arches. Okay, I also want these arches as I think I'm going to use these as my backdrop, like at my reception venue for the wedding for the wedding table. As much as it pains me to say it, I think these arches are also going to be considered tacky and outdated. Obviously, there's like 1,000,001 ways that you can do an arch, but like these ones specifically, like the cheap, it's all cheap, it's just decoration. But with the flowers or without the flowers, or some people drape their sheer fabric with their wedding colors over it, I just think that they're going to be overdone. Don't hate me, because I'm also going to use these for my 2025 wedding. This is the one that I think I'm going to get crucified for. I think that this is ugly. I think some people pull it off well, but I think you have to really have a sense of like color palette and being able to choose colors that don't go together but go together. I'm not that girl, so I can't make that happen. I think we are going to look back in 5 years, maybe not even 5 years, and look at this and go, oh, this is just like when brides would have their bridesmaids wear cowgirl boots. It's quirky and different, But I think within 5 years, we are all going to look back and think that it's really tacky.
And I hope that as we've gone through this content, you kind of feel like the energy shift has changed, right? Like at first it was just, these are the ideas. At second, this is the trends. And now it gets to the point of like, oh, if you really love that, you should definitely do that. Oh my gosh, who am I to tell you what to do? But since you're a stranger on the internet, I don't know that you love that thing. I'm just going to assume that you follow the trends and yuck, ooh. I literally think she kind of fake barfed at one point. Even though it's coming from a place of like, these are just my opinions, teehee, silly, goofy. The overall message is there are hundreds of thousands of people online judging your wedding choices, judging what you pick, judging what you do, judging if you do it something that was trendy a year or two ago, because that's probably when you were planning your wedding. And because these are all strangers on the internet, we don't know them. They don't know you, your personal style, what you like, why you made those decisions. So the things that you do are very quickly just going to get categorized into ick, categorized into yuck, no, thank you. And I think this all builds into that fear, right? The fear of being cringy, fear of falling for trends, the fear of looking back and thinking, oh my gosh, I can tell that I got married in 2025. And I think a really perfect example of this fear just absolutely boiling over and just getting really silly was the Basque wedding dresses are being compared to mason jars, because everyone felt like they were on high alert and they're just trying to look out, their boots on the ground, making sure they're keeping an eye out for Selena, making sure they don't fall for any trends that won't age well. And so one person decided to share an idea, share a thought they think that, what if this wedding dress style is the equivalent of a mason jar? So I wanted to show you kind of how that unfolded.
Don't hate me, but the Basque waist of a wedding dress is the 2025 version of a mason jar. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm gonna be so real with you guys. The only people who are gonna buy into this whole Basque waist dresses are the new mason jars, are the people who aren't old enough to remember mason jar weddings. Like, I'll be 37 when I walk down the aisle next year, and I remember mason jar weddings, and they were litty, and they were so much fun, and all the brides and grooms looked amazing, and they had an awesome wedding, and nobody cares 10 years later whether the mason jars are cool or not. Nobody who actually had mason jars at their wedding is still worried about whether the mason jars were cool. So that entire comparison is so lost on people and should just go to show that 10 years from now, you are not going to care if your Basque waist dress was cool or not when you got married. Like, let it go, kiddos. Go touch grass. A lot of us have lived a whole life without the internet and social media, and there is a whole world out there. No one cares. Enjoy your wedding. Let other people enjoy their wedding.
Gen Z's fear of being associated with millennial culture needs to be studied, because what do you mean? You are comparing Basque waist wedding dresses to mason jars. Oh my god. I'll own it. I'm a millennial woman. I'm getting married in September in, you guessed it, a Basque waist wedding dress. Just like countless people did before me in the 90s, the 80s, the 60s a little bit, and then in the late 1800s where it all began. Now, I have no clue if that original content creator is part of Gen Z, but that take is very evocative of a mindset that we are just seeing everywhere. It begs the question, why are we so afraid to like things? Look, no shade, bless her heart, all of that, but like, can we be so for real for a second? Gen Z is probably one of the most, if not the most, reliant group of people on trends that we have ever seen. Mob Wife, Tomato Girl Summer, like, admit it, trends are fun. You're gonna call me cringe for this, and that's fine, because guess what? I don't care. That's the beauty of being a millennial. So many of us grew up with parents who were like, you have to do it this way because that's just the way it's done. And then we rebelled by learning how to be like, no thank you. And you know what? Maybe 15 years from now, my kids will look at photos of us on our wedding day and they'll be like, oh my gosh, mom, dad, like, you guys look like so crazy. Like, why did you wear that? And I'll look them dead in the eyes that I gave them. I'll say, you know what, babe? You had to be there. I believe it's the Book of Millennial, chapter 2, verse 12, that says, I may be cringe, but I am fucking free. Because knowing yourself and knowing what you like lets you cherry pick the best part of what's trending right now. Because you know what really matters? Looking back at photos and being like, okay, yeah, I would maybe do some things differently, but god damn was I in good company. All love, have fun, Do what you want. It's not that serious.
And I feel like that last video just summarized it so well of like, there has been this overcorrection of like fear of having these quirky, silly, cringy, whatever word you want to use that we were like obsessed with in the 2010s. It's at the cost of your personality. The fear is so strong that people feel like they need to go to the collective and check, are these things cool because they're trendy, or are they cool, and are they overdone, or are they done just right? And like with the girl we saw in a couple of videos earlier, where it's like, I like that thing, but it's being done too much, so I need to get a new idea, when in reality it's probably just going to be a newer trend. And when you're so worried about how things will look and how things will be perceived, you kind of forget to even ask yourself what you like, what you think looks good on you, what you want. And so as yes, maybe Gen Z thinks it's cringy the amount of personality that millennials had in their weddings. I feel like having no personality or being afraid to put your personality into weddings is also not the answer either. And it also just feels like you're chasing an impossible standard. Because we have had this overcorrection, there's now no personality in weddings, and it's this fear of being judged. And I feel like this really takes me into my final point of this video and this conversation of like, yes, maybe millennials were a little bit too silly and goofy, but I feel like this overcorrection, so we're going to pick the things that will be approved. We're going to pick the things that hopefully will age the best, even if it's not the things we like. Even if we like the things that we saw were really trendy, I'm not going to pick that because I don't want to look back on it and be like, a trend. But I do honestly fear that this is ultimately chasing like an impossible standard. Even if you have a wedding that is very like trendless or very kind of classic in a church, there are still going to be things that influence your wedding. There are still going to be things that indicate when you got married, even just down to like a classic makeup or a classic hairstyle. 2025 still has a take on that, which is different to classic that we saw in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, so on and so forth. So I did want to end on this final video that is, we're just chasing an impossible standard and we're maybe chasing it over what we actually want.
I actually totally agree with this, and I want to even take it a step further and say there is really no such thing as a timeless wedding or a timeless wedding photo. Only when people are referring to a timeless wedding detail, they are referring to a classic wedding detail, so the way it has always been done. But maybe you're like, I don't want to do the mixed matched bridal party dresses because that's too trendy. I want to stick with something timeless. Or colorful wedding flowers are too trendy. I want to do white roses because that's timeless. There is nothing wrong with making these choices if they're what you like and what you want for your wedding, but making them because you want your wedding to be timeless, I think does yourself a disservice. Because even when you look at a quote unquote timeless wedding, you can almost always still tell the decade it was taken in. And that's due to the other tiny little details, the fashion of your guests, your makeup, your hair, the technology that is available with photo and video that changes a lot. The decor of your venue, the cars in the background. All those tiny little things are able to tell a viewer usually around when a wedding took place. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it's really cool. Like when you were looking at your parents' wedding photos from the 80s or whenever, isn't it really cool to be like, oh my God, those sleeves, that's wild. Or like the wacky bridesmaid dresses from the 70s, like the really cool bridal suits that they wore in like the 40s. Being able to place the time of a wedding photo is inevitable, and it is also really endearing and sweet. I say this not to be discouraging, but rather to be encouraging to do whatever the hell you want to do and not worry about whether or not it will look dated, because one day it will look dated. And like most things, if you look back on it, maybe 5 years later, you might cringe and be like, why did we do that super weird cake thing? But give it 20 years or 30 years and you're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. That was, everybody was doing it at the time. That's so 2020s or whatever, which I think will be really lovely.
Your wedding day is not going to be timeless in the way that you think it is. Nothing is timeless. It's not. Like, the way we shape our eyebrows, that trends. Like, literally, the stupid hair on our face, the way we shape it, trends. Your wedding day isn't going to be timeless. It's going to be timed to a certain extent, and that's okay. It's not negative. I don't know where this became, like, a thing that, like, you have to have a timeless wedding. You don't, because you're not going to, because nothing is truly timeless. Nothing is wrong with that. Your day is still beautiful, even if it's timed. Even if we know the era it took place in, it can still be beautiful. It can still be loved. Even if it's not timeless, because nothing is truly going to be timeless. It is okay to look back at a wedding and know about the time it took place in, because you know what? You can appreciate what was going on at that time. Oh my gosh, remember when we used to do blah, 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 blah? That was really in. Now the times have changed, but guess what? I have changed. It's been 10 years since my wedding. It's not a negative thing. Nothing is truly going to be timeless. What really transcends time on a wedding day? The love, the laughter, the excitement, the emotions, those things make your day timeless. The details, they're not going to be timeless.
to a certain degree, they're not going to be timeless. Timeless does not need to be the goal.
And I hope that that idea and message comes across as like a loving, just little snap out of it, you know, like let go of that idea. And also remember, all of those millennials that had the Converse, the mason jars, the barn weddings, whatever else thing you can think of, I think if they're still happily married, they look back on those photos and they are happy with them because they had a fun time, they did what they want. Sure, they probably wouldn't do it word for word, decoration for decoration, donut wall for donut wall. I don't know what other trends. They might not replicate it still, but I think they still look back on it with happiness and fondness, and they don't have that fear that people getting married these days seem to have when they look at those photos, when they see those trends. And so now I would really love to know what you guys think about the whole situation. Have you seen this kind of growing fear / obsession with timelessness and classiness? And like, what are your thoughts? To me, obviously, I just think do what you want, and some things that you will choose might be more classic or traditional than others if you're having a wedding, and that's okay. I think just choose what you want. Like truly, as we said, there's so much pressure, so much money, and like this is a day that is supposed to be about you marrying the person you love and spending it with people you love. Like, have it how you want, invite who you want, wear what you want, do it. Go on, do it. I dare you. I double dare you to do it, to pick the things you like, to pick the things that make you happy, and to just let go of that fear and obsession with something that is ultimately unattainable, which is timelessness. But yes, I would love to know what you guys think about this whole situation, so please let me know in the comments down below. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. If you stay till the end, you are a real one. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And if you want to keep up with me between my uploads, I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and I will link my vlog channel down below. We are back, baby. Weekly vlogging is back. Yes, nice. That's very nice and very classic and timeless and also cringy of me, isn't it just? And YouTube should be recommending another one of my videos on the screen right now. But don't you worry, guys, because I'm not funny there either. Bye!